your job causes you to grieve, I want to encourage you, please allow yourself to grieve. Many men do not express how they feel. Some were told coming up as little boys that little boys don't cry. You may not have had the opportunity to acknowledge things, just to act strong all the time. But sometimes in order to really, really heal, you have to accept that you're in pain. And you don't have to talk about it a lot, but just admitting it to yourself and a few trusted people around you could be a real big deal and be very helpful for you. Some of the men I've worked with in recent years actually chose to come for therapy when they lost their jobs because they were looking for a space to work through this difficult time. And honestly, as a therapist, having worked with men for so many years, when they come into therapy and they initiate therapy, it is so validating for me. And I really pay a lot of attention to acknowledging that this is a big deal for them to come and talk to somebody. And I validate the fact that being vulnerable is not necessarily easy for them. That's why in therapy, when I'm working with a man whose sense of identity is being threatened, or they're grieving a job loss, I allow them to take their time in admitting their vulnerability, and I follow their leading as related to the pace of treatment and the pace in which they divulge information or disclose their feelings. I may move it at a slower pace because I understand that many of them are struggling to even talk about how they feel. I want you to admit to your family that you're struggling, and I want you to do it in a way that works for you. There is no right or wrong way to admit that you are struggling. But because many men like to feel that they are solving a problem or they're fixing something, it may be helpful for you to channel some of that frustration into problem solving or into coming up with ideas, for example, on how to reduce the family expenses since your income is not as high as it used to be or is non-existent at this time. Some of the men are still working, but they're working part-time now, or the salary is not as high, or they're underemployed. What about you admitting that you are struggling with your job loss or with your career setback, but you want to channel that into talking to your spouse, sitting down with the family, working with them to add up the numbers, and using that as an opportunity to say, I'm gonna need your help in light of this situation with my work so that we can keep the household running. That is a place where you can show vulnerability, and you can also show your strength in problem solving and wanting to be there for your family. You're receiving support to work through this time by admitting that you're struggling, but you're also being there and letting them know that you're not just going to leave them hanging. You're going to be there through the journey to be of support. You're not going to hide away somewhere. You're going to be connecting with them even though you're feeling overwhelmed. It is important to have honest and practical conversations. Some men feel guilty telling their family that there's not enough money, that the budgets may need to be cut in some areas. I know that's understandable for you to feel that way. You may even feel like you're not being the kind of man that you really want to be. But wouldn't you want to be the kind of man that is honest? Wouldn't you want to be the kind of man that is showing by example that you can look at the numbers, call things what they are, and act accordingly? I see that as a sign of strength to have those honest, practical conversations. While you may feel defeated or feel that you're not as productive as you like to be, what about just looking at what issues you have now? We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't know whether you're going to get a high income tomorrow. What about looking at the expenses now? Maybe you can eat out less. Maybe you can buy food in much more in bulk. Maybe you can do less travel. Maybe you can travel more within the area and save money and spend more time in the quality of the relationships and the connections. Even if you can't get on a plane to go to Hawaii, you can go to some outskirts of your city. You can go to the mountains. You can go on a hike. I remember during the COVID period, there wasn't a lot of travel. I hiked the Appalachian Trail. You can do so many things that can save you money and still feel a deep sense of connectedness with your family, maybe even more connected than you were when there was much more money to splurge. And you can use that opportunity too to build hope in your family, to let them know that you're hoping for the best. You're also teaching them by example that when they have problems in the future, you're modeling for your children and for your spouse or anyone in your family or your loved one that when they have problems, that they shouldn't shy away from it, that they shouldn't avoid it, that they should look at the fact, that they should look at the numbers and make hard decisions. That's part of what it means to be a man. And I believe you can do that. And I want to encourage you to do that as you navigate this complex path of grieving because you lost your job. Now I want to talk about how a man's emotional health can be significantly impacted because of job loss, unemployment, or underemployment. We have enough data, research showing that unemployment for men can trigger depression, anxiety, and maybe even suicidal thoughts, because your self-worth is so intertwined with your work, and it can unfortunately push you into a place where you're feeling worthless. And worthlessness, helplessness, hopelessness can increase the risk of depression. If you as a man had suffered depression in the past, this can make the depression worse. Please be careful and mindful. We don't want to make long-term, life-changing decisions based on this difficult situation. You will hear me say often, there are many options besides suicide. There are many options besides suicide. Even though you don't see it, there are many options besides suicide. The fact that you're feeling down right now does not mean that there's no way out. Some of the things that you were not able to explore in terms of opportunities for other kind of employment, you were not able to do that because you were gainfully and fully employed. But now that the job situation has happened, you never know what is out there that you have not been able to find out yet. I want you to really try to maintain an attitude of hopefulness and positivity. And that's what I've worked with my patients who are struggling in this area. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know who's going to hire you, but you're going to keep doing things. We strategize on doing things to show that there is hope for the future. Hi, thank you so much for checking out this clip. Please share, like, and subscribe to this channel so that you can view other episodes. Check us out on AskDrRolla.com, where you'll find additional information about mental health and wellness. See you soon. Bye.